it's Catherine from Spirited Art. Today we're going to be painting this dandelion and ladybug painting. We have 3 rules here at Spirited Art. The first is this is totally your painting. If you want to change something like how the grass looks or add some leaves, that's totally up to you, and everyone's creativity will actually have this come out a little bit differently. Second rule, don't drink your paint water. You need a cup of water to rinse your brushes, don't drink it. Third rule, keep your brushes in your water when you're not using them because this paint does dry quickly. It's acrylic paint, and that's a good thing for your canvas. If something happens on here that you don't love, you can let it dry and paint right over it. If it happens in your brushes, it's going to get really gross and they're going to become sticks, so don't do that. All right, let's get started. This is only my second YouTube video, so I apologize for any sort of clunkiness here. Separate your plate so that you have a mixing plate. Take the biggest brush that you have. I'm going to take my big brush out of the water, get some of the water out of the brush, tap it on your napkin. And then for this color, I'm going to take a big scoop of blue and about a half a scoop of white. Notice I'm just going on the outside edge of my color so I don't taint the whole pile. I'm not rinsing my brushes in between. I'm pushing the paint to the center of the pile and mixing so that I don't paint the plate. I have plenty for my canvas. This is kind of a light blue. It's going to be a sky color. If that's a little too dark for you, you can take a little more white, just a little bit at a time, and mix it in. That's better. All right, we are going to put this color on our canvas everywhere except for the ladybug. You probably have a little ladybug shape right in the lower right-hand corner of your canvas. You can outline her with a little brush or your big brush if you're comfortable. Then you're going to put this blue color everywhere else. Big strokes from the elbow. It's okay if your paint isn't completely mixed because that's going to make your sky look great. If you don't like that, just keep brushing over it and it'll mix right there on your canvas. We actually do want a little bit of variation in our blue in the sky. That'll make it just a little more interesting. And when you look up at the sky, it doesn't all look like one color. So take that paint all the way across. You can notice that I'm pulling my bristles. I'm never pushing them. I'm pulling them, and I do change the angle of my wrist as I go back and forth. If you have one of our wrapped canvases, you can also put this color around the edges. It makes it look like a frame. And if I'm going too fast, just stop the video until you're caught up. All right. While our paint's still a little bit wet, I want you to do some experimenting. We have this blue on there. I want you to take just the tip of your bristles into your white paint. Just the tip. One sec. Just the tip of your bristles into the white paint. Just a little bit. If you get too much, you can always brush it off a little on your plate, and you're just going to lightly brush over top. You just want to put a little bit of white, a little variation. You can do it more than once in your background. Keep in mind that up here is going to be our dandelion, so you don't need to worry too much about that space. It's going to get covered by white. If you want to do the same thing with a little bit of blue on your brush, you can brush that in too. It'll give you just a little bit of a darker shade in your sky. Okay, let's rinse our brush. We are going to make some green because our ladybug needs to have somewhere to sit. Take a clean brush, tap it on your napkin to make sure it's clean. You're going to take a scoop of yellow and just a little bit of blue. We can always add more blue. I just took about a corner of blue. This is going to be our darker green shade, so I'm going to take a little bit more blue. Little bit at a time. There we go. And I'm going to apply this with my little brush because I'm drawing grass. So get all that paint off of your big brush. You can put that guy back in the water. Take out your little brush. Okay. So first layer, I might put a tiny bit more blue in there. First layer is the darker green. You can twist your brush as you're coming out of the paint and you're gonna give this ladybug a little place to sit. So you wanna go around her body with the grass. You can make it a little bit wavy. It can be straight. You put as much or as little as you want. You can actually give her a little leaf there too. We'll add some more green on top of this later. This is just to get the initial grass started. Oh, great. Okay, let's rinse our brush and we're gonna fill in her body. This is gonna be straight red. You can use your little brush if you want to, or your big brush. I'm just gonna stick with my little brush since I was already using it. And you're gonna fill in her body completely with this red. If you do want a little bit darker red, you could actually add a touch of black. Let's just do that. And you'll get something of a dark red maroonish color, if you'd prefer that. Or you could add a little bit of that in. It's up to you. Fill in her body. Her head is gonna be straight black. If you're getting some brush strokes that you don't like, get the paint on there and then go top to bottom with one big stroke. That'll take those brush strokes out. The other thing you can also do for brush strokes, because red does get a little bit streaky, is you can let this dry and we'll put a second coat on top. If you've used some of that dark color and you want to brighten it up, then that second coat that we add can be straight red. All right, that's her body. Let's focus on the dandelion now, and we'll come back and put the black on last. I usually do black last because I don't like to make my water super dirty until the end. All right, take your big brush. We're gonna use our big brush and our little brush on the dandelion, but first let's start with our big brush. It needs to be really clean. You're gonna go straight into your white and give yourself an arch, like half of a circle there, up in the upper left-hand corner. All right, that's gonna be our starting point. We're gonna fill in with dabs. You're gonna use a lot of paint for this part. Now mine is still a little bit wet, so it's picking up some of the blue, that's fine. You can dab at the edge too, because we don't want it to be a straight line edge. That's just our guide. If you have a hairdryer, that'll help dry your background faster. But it's fine to have this light blue color at the base of our dandelion. You can make this as big or as small as you like. It's got a lot of texture in it. Okay, I'm picking up a lot of blue, so I think what I'm going to do is just put on one more layer of white and let that dry. Okay, so we got a light blue dandelion right now. Don't worry, we'll come back and put white on that and it will clean itself up. We're going to add to those green grasses with a little bit lighter color now. You can either put a little bit of yellow with some green that you already mixed, maybe a dab of white. This is going to be a light green highlight. And you're just going to put this through the center of the blades of the grass. Real lightly. This is a very light touch. The lighter you press, the thinner the line. The harder you press, the thicker the line. So when you're doing highlights, when you're adding a color on top of something else, often you're going to use a very light touch, barely touching the canvas. And I'm just adding that color into each leaf. This leaf might need a little of the original green. You can go back and forth between your greens until you get a color that you like, with highlights that you like. Okay. All right, because we need to let that dry, we are going to go ahead and use black. So rinse your brush really well. I'm going to fill in her head black. This is a half circle. If you paint it over it, it's just a half circle on top of the body. Paint. Okay, and the decoration for her body is going to be a straight line down the middle. Now, it's not going to be straight, it's going to be curved, because remember, the sides of her body and the top of her body is a curve. So it's going to be a line that has a slight curve to it, okay? And on either side, you're going to make some spots. They don't have to be exactly across from each other. You can make as many or as few as you want. I'm going to do 3 on each side. Some spots can be going off the side. It doesn't have to be a full circle. I'll have 2 of her spots going off the side of her body and just 1 full circle on that left-hand side. And before I stop with the black, I'm going to put 2 little, kind of little antennas on the top of her head. They're just very, very short lines, and they're basically right in the middle of that half circle that you made her head. Okay? You can clean that up as you see fit. All right. My dandelion is looking very wet, so I am actually going to take this over to my hair dryer, and I'm just going to blow it dry just a little bit so that we can actually get white on top. Okay, much better. It's not 100% dry, but when it's wet, the colors will mix together. I needed it to be dry so that my white can sit on top of the sky color that I already have on there. All right, let's take our palette, go straight into the white with your big brush, and we're just gonna tap on top of what we have there, lightly. You can also kind of lay your brush on the side. And you're gonna go over what we have with this white. And then what we're gonna do is add a light yellow and maybe even a light purple if you want to, just to give our flower a little bit of depth. The other thing you can do, if you wanna just thin it out at the edge, is you can actually take your finger, just make some circles. That'll actually spread out the paint. This is also how we do clouds, and it'll give it that lighter, fluffier look at the edge. I just made some big circles with my finger, and now I'm just going back to the tapping. Dabbing with the brush. All right, so while that is still wet, I'm gonna take my little brush. I'm going to go into the yellow, and I'm going to add some yellow straight to that white, and because I'm dabbing it in, it's probably going to mix right in. Not a lot on your brush, just a little bit. If it's too yellow for you, just dab some white over top and it'll turn a lighter yellow. This is with the little brush. You could try this with the big brush too. It's just that we're giving it a little bit of a different texture with this little brush. And you can add as little or as much of this yellow as you like into your flower. Oop, you don't want drips going down. Okay, if you prefer to mix a light yellow on your plate, you could add equal parts of white and yellow and then add it into your flower. I like to mix on my canvas a lot, so I'm just mixing it right here, adding the white on top of the yellow until it's that lighter color that I want. The other thing you can do is if you feel like you have too much yellow, wait for it to dry, and then you can put some white dabs right over top of some of your patches of yellow. All right. We're gonna use this little brush to go out at the edge a little bit more too. Give yourself some dabs at the edge. You can turn your brush different directions. And make this flower just a little bit larger. All right, one last color that we want in there, and then I'll leave you to your dabbing. We're going to take, you can leave the white on your brush, scoop of white. We don't need a lot of this, so mixing with your little brush is fine. Scoop of red, scoop of blue, maybe 2 scoops of white actually. We're going for a light lavender color. This should be very light, so depending on how much of those other 2 colors you have, you may need to add some more white to it. I would say that that's even a little bit dark. I'm gonna add 1 more scoop of white to that. Again, these are scoops with the little brush. All right, I'm gonna twist my brush to get some of that paint off, and I'm gonna go kind of towards the center. I'm gonna use this purple towards the center of the flower, and I'm kind of making a ring, half circle. It kind of follows the edge of the flower, but it's towards the center, and that's gonna be with that purple color. You can put some purple wherever. If you want to add a little bit towards the edge, you can certainly do that. I love purple, so I'm just gonna put a little here and there towards the edge. If it looks like too much, I'll just put some white over top. All right. A few more dabs of my darker purple color. And I think we're good. All right, the only thing I'm gonna add here, I'm gonna let this dry, and I might add a little bit more white over top of some of this because it's looking a little yellowish for me, and dandelions are mainly white. And I think the other thing I'm gonna do, which I will show you, is my grass. I feel like I need some more leaves on that. I'm just gonna draw like another leaf here. Coming off. First, I'm gonna try and use that dark green. I put a few drops of water on my green to liven it back up on my plate. If you have a little bit of a color on your plate, you can add some water to it. If it's kind of dry, you may be able to liven it back up with some water. Depends on how long it's been sitting there. Or you may just need to mix a little bit more. All right, that looks better there. I'm gonna add a little more blue in there to darken it up. And I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed our ladybug painting today. Remember to like our YouTube channel and subscribe. Thanks, guys.